Hi, I'm Andrew Sears, and in this lecture, I'm going to talk about how City Vision helps ministries operationalize values and avoid mission drift. So, in other lectures, I've talked about that the big focus of what we're trying to do is to build culture and to collaborate with partners to build culture. Now, one of the biggest challenges that many of our partners face is they're trying to increase professionalization, but they're trying to avoid values alignment. So there's kind of this chart of values alignment here and professionalization here, and what we've seen in our talks with over 1,000 nonprofits. So there's typically they start off as very values aligned whenever they're founded. And I call this in the typology of faith-based organizations, most traditional faith-based organization, they're small. But you have this frontier of staff quality. And what happens is over time, you need to get more professionals and you lose a little bit of values alignment, become a traditional faith-based organization. But then you go to critical mass faith-based organization. And unless you're doing something, you're going to lose a lot of values alignment whenever you do that. So you have increased secularization risk. And really, there's two things that you got to adapt to. One is just knowing this trend. Two is that we're in a knowledge economy, and you got to spend 5 to 10 times more investment on staff training than you do in an industrial economy, because your top resource is the human capital of your staff. And you can either build or buy on your staff, and you can't just build value. You can't buy values alignment. You have to actually build values alignment. So, the major focus of our, one of our courses is to develop a plan to operationalize values and avoid mission drift. Now, what City Vision does, our main focus with our partners is to help them increase professionalization without decreasing values alignment. So, a lot of our partners have increased their total staff training by double or fourfold by partnering with City Vision. And ultimately, what you do by investing a lot in training is you're moving that whole frontier of staff quality over. So you have stronger values alignment and stronger professionalization. Now, another way to frame this is in terms of a trilemma. There's a lot of different trilemmas out there. The project management trilemma, but I would call this the professional competence, Christian values alignment, and community values alignment in serving the poor. So that's, cultural fluency and lived experience. And the idea behind a trilemma is often, these different values are competing with each other, and it's hard to get all three. So another way of framing this is actually in terms of how education works. So, in the hiring challenge, generally, the largest pool of candidates that a lot of ministries are hiring from are Christians who have attended secular schools. So they might have degrees in counseling, business, or ministry. If they attended a Christian school, then they would get some Christ-centric education. But also what you can do is you can train that in. So you can have some particular courses and training that you're going to be doing. But it's hard to provide, honestly, if someone goes through 4,000 hours of training and you provide 5 hours of training at your ministry, is just not going to be enough. So that's why a lot of organizations will partner with City Vision. But I also want to emphasize another aspect, which is a need for training to serve the poor. So as we talk with partners, I get two areas of feedback. One is they say, I'm hiring people that they don't get our mission on the Christian aspects. They're secularly trained, so they're coming with these secular models, and they're great counselors, but I need them to be trained in Christian models also. But the other side is, they're just not trained to work with the homeless, work with people who are addicted, work with people who might have significant mental illness. And there's particular areas that you need deeper training in. So dealing with trauma, addiction specific, de-escalation, cross-cultural, nonprofit management. And for this area, I want to talk a little bit about some missiology. So missiology is how do you do missions effectively? How do you work cross-culturally effectively and in serving the poor? So if you take a missiology course, one of the main concepts there is understanding cultural degrees of separation. And Ralph Winter popularized this, and he talked about, E0, and he was talking about in terms of evangelism, same culture, E1 is 1 degree removed, E2 is 2 degree removes. And the missiological principle is that a significant driver of ministry effectiveness is reduce the distance of your organizational culture from that of clients. And what you have to recognize is most higher education is 2 degrees removed from the culture of clients for ministry serving the poor. So the more educated you get, the more culturally distant from clients you become. So just to show this graphically, what that is so you have clients who, often are individuals who are poor, who are homeless, who are addicted. And then you get people who are going through typical higher education, and the pedagogy or the educational philosophy is to focus on theory, to focus kind of on this detached approach. And really what's unique about City Vision is, I haven't been able to come up with the ideal, name for this, but for lack of a better name, I'm calling it working class centric culture. So really what that means is pragmatic and relational are the dominant values versus theoretical and detached. So City Vision's education of what we're trying to do is we're trying to have this professional education. Often we're working with a book in that space, but then having this working class centric education. So again, what that is practical pedagogy. So emphasis on the practical aspect, but focused on serving the poor and the addicted, and then combining that with Christ-centric. Now, what do I mean by Christ-centric? What do I mean by working class-centric? Well, the best model to learn from is Afrocentric education. I borrowed this diagram online that talks about different ways you can have Afrocentric education. If you go to historically Black colleges and universities, and you think about what are the roles that those institutions play and their strengths. So, throughout the history of African Americans in the United States, probably 2 institutions have had the most influence on helping the plight of African Americans. Number 1, I believe, is the Black church. Number 2 is historically Black colleges and universities. Both of those have an Afrocentric framework. And ultimately, what that's about is building the health of the Black community, building long-term development of Black culture, avoiding the tendency to group assimilation, and building healthy Black organizations and institutions. That's what we're trying to do across Christian organizations, and I think it provides a good model. So you can have Christ-centric education and Christian higher education. This is basically what the summary of it is. But also this thing that I'm calling working class-centric education, which really is just getting it to be practical. And recognizing that we're building a culture that, what we're trying to do is bring health to the last, the least, and the lost. So what do I mean by that? What does that look like specifically for courses? That seems like pie in the sky ideals. Well, what it looks like specifically in courses is whenever we take textbooks, this is a generic textbook on family therapy. It's largely written, if I look at it from a cross-cultural lens, it's written for often middle class or upper middle class students. But then what we do is we're going to pair that with a textbook that is designed to be integration. And this book was actually written to align with the state, and these are the standards, licensed professional counselor, and this is the accreditor for that. And then we're going to provide addiction-specific integration. So if you're working with families in addiction, so for most of our courses, we're trying to do some combination of this in terms of our approach. So another way of framing how we help partners is just looking at the outcome vision. So there's those you serve, and what we're trying to do is help you to radically improve the life transforming impact by aligning your programs with your vision and values, and by innovating and contextualizing the changing needs and audiences. Then with your leadership, we're trying to expand your leadership capacity to align your strategy with vision and values for your organization, to enable you to innovate, to adapt to a changing context while retaining your core values. And then in the movement, what we're trying to do is enable innovation. Think about how Stanford has partnered with Silicon Valley. We're trying to do that with the different movements of Christians serving the poor. So enable our partners to become thought leaders and a source of innovation for Christian movement to enable it to grow and thrive while resisting secularization. So how do we do that? I've said that there's this entrepreneurial operating system that many people have been using from the book Traction. You can think of part of what City Vision is trying to do is kind of this ministry operating system, and we have different components of that, but there's two core courses in that. There's the aligning strategy with theology and values, and that's where you're creating a comprehensive theological vision and organizational values alignment plan. Think of that as the heart equivalent of your strategic plan, where the strategic plan might be the head, the thinking approach, and this is more the heart and cultural approach. And then we have another course that is Christian Approaches to Counseling and Life Transformation. So this is for your program executive leadership. This is for the CEO. This integrates with our strategic management course, and then our strategic management course integrates with all our other courses. This course here also provides kind of the philosophical and theological foundation for all of our other courses. And part of the way you can think about this is most of our courses, honestly, are focused on the how, the skills and competencies, the nuts and bolts. These two courses are really on the why, the values, or the heart of the organization. These two courses also provide a bridge to Bible and theology courses. So these two courses, if you hire people from Bible and theology schools, these would be great courses for them to take, because often the Bible and theology courses, they'll do the whole theological pyramid, but they're weak on the top of the pyramid, which is practical theology, particularly in, as we've explained what practical theology is, it's always practical theology into something. And generally, they're not going to be able to provide deep practical theology into all the areas that your ministry is doing. So these courses will help a lot more with that. So another way of framing this is what we're trying to do is help you build a vibrant collective culture within larger movements. So how do we collectively build a vibrant culture of deep competency across all domains relevant to ministry serving the poor and the addicted? And yet the idea here is the Wesleyan quadrilateral, and you have different fields. And what we're trying to do is, to follow Andy Crouch's vision of culture making. How do we collectively build a culture that has strong core competencies across all of these domains? And what we're doing is we're trying to build a learning ecosystem with our partners. So City Vision has over 100 partner organizations. Each year we have 600 partner meetings. We have right now, actually, we have over 350 students from partners. We have advisory councils. And with that, we're building different toolkits out there, partner resource spreadsheet, addiction counseling toolkit, HR, staff training, aftercare. And then what we're doing is all the research, all the material that we're pulling together, we're using that to inform those things. We have faculty. A lot of our faculty come from partners. And with that, we're trying to build this innovation ecosystem. Within that innovation ecosystem, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create these communities of practice and hubs to learn from each other in different domains. So for program and counseling best practices and innovation, HR and staff training innovation, development innovation, social enterprise innovation. And part of how we're doing that is we don't just partner with organizations, is we're trying to partner across organizational units. So for staff training, we're trying to partner with your HR. For clients, we have our Wounded Healers program. And for recovery program staff, we have addiction counseling programs. For thrift store staff, we have a retail management certificate. For food services staff, we have food services management certificate. And all these tie into our innovation hubs. For development, we have nonprofit fundraising certificate. And for internal staff training, we have our credit recognition. Now, I want to highlight our Wounded Healers program. What that is an aftercare program. So we've had in the past year, I think we've had about 150 or 200 students that are program graduates from our partners, and we provide an aftercare program to them. So we provide them with remote case management, a very job-focused certificate. But what we're trying to do is continue what you guys have often done, what our ministry partners have often done, in terms of life skills, but continue to help them develop their life skills of things like develop a life plan, relapse prevention plan, how to have healthy relationships, manage their personal finances, take care of their physical health. So as you can see, we're trying to partner across the whole organization. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is help you build comprehensive strategies to professionalize without without compromising values. So, many ministries will hire program grads. You have basically three strategies to grow your staff. You can hire program grads. You can promote staff from within, or you can hire staff outside. What we're trying to do is to expand this frontier of staff quality by enable you to increase your total staff training by twofold, fourfold in some cases, maybe even more than that. So hopefully this is helpful to understand the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, that we're all a part of God's larger movement. We're trying to discern what it is that God is trying to get us to do in terms of culture. God wants us to be co-creators. So how do we be co-creators of a common culture that will help bring life transformation to those we're serving? That's really what we're trying to do.